Have you ever felt like an alien at your own planet's biggest party? The Super Bowl, the World Cup, or even just office chatter about the weekend's game is on, and you're just standing there, nodding and smiling. Your internal monologue is just a loop of hoping no one asks you a direct question about what just happened. You see the passion, the excitement, the collective joy or despair, but you feel absolutely none of it. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know there is a clear psychological reason for this, and it's probably not what you think. It's not that you're boring or antisocial or that something is wrong with you. In fact, we're going to explore 4 core reasons, and the fourth is rooted in an experience almost all of us share but rarely talk about. It has everything to do with the specific way your brain is wired. So if you feel this way, let me say it again. You are not alone, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your lack of interest in sports isn't a bug. It's a feature of your unique psychological makeup. Today, we're going to embark on a journey from the inside out to understand this feature completely. First, we'll look at your fundamental personality traits and how they predict your interests. Second, we'll dive into your cognitive style, or the very way your brain prefers to process information. Third, we'll explore the social factor, reframing sports fandom as a form of tribalism you may not be wired for. And finally, we'll unpack that hidden fourth reason related to your past experiences. But this is more than just understanding yourself. Later on, I'm going to give you 3 simple techniques to handle any awkward sports conversation, and they work like a charm. So we've established the what, but the real question is why. And the answer starts inside your own head with your personality. Psychological research has a powerful tool for understanding our core traits, often called the Big Five or the ocean model. It stands for openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, and it explains a huge amount of our behavior. O for openness to experience. People high in this trait are curious, creative, and love complex, abstract ideas. They'd rather get lost in a new theory, a fantasy world, or a challenging piece of art than watch a game with a fixed set of rules and a predictable physical space. Imagine Alex, who would rather spend an afternoon debugging a complex piece of code or reading a historical novel. For Alex, the endless novelty of ideas is far more engaging than the repetitive structure of a sports season. Next up is E for extroversion. While extroverts are energized by social gatherings, introverts, who are on the lower end of this scale, find them draining. The idea of a loud stadium with thousands of screaming people is the literal definition of an energy-draining environment for an introvert. They can enjoy social connection, but they prefer it in smaller, more intimate settings. Finally, let's briefly touch on C for conscientiousness. People high in this trait are disciplined, organized, and goal-oriented. For some highly conscientious people, spending 3 hours watching other people play a game can feel deeply unproductive. Their mind is constantly thinking about the project they could be finishing or the skill they could be learning. So when you combine high openness, lower extroversion, and high conscientiousness, you get a personality profile that is naturally predisposed to find sports uninteresting. It's a predictable outcome of your core wiring. Does that sound like you, a high openness, lower extroversion profile? Let me know in the comments if that resonates, but your personality is only part of the story. But personality isn't happening in a vacuum. It interacts with the world through your cognitive wiring. So let's talk about how you think. One of the biggest cognitive divides is between abstract and concrete thinking. Sports are fundamentally concrete, with clear rules, defined winners, and measurable outcomes, which is satisfying for a concrete-oriented brain. But if your mind is wired for abstract thought, you thrive on nuance, ambiguity, and multi-layered problems with no clear answer. Asking your brain to enjoy a football game might be like asking a grandmaster to enjoy a game of tic-tac-toe. The system is just too simple to be engaging for you. This ties into another cognitive preference, an aversion to zero-sum games. In sports, for one team to win, the other team must lose. That's a zero-sum outcome. However, many creative and analytical minds are drawn to positive-sum or win-win scenarios. They love collaborating on a project where everyone contributes and succeeds together, or solving a puzzle that creates new value. The pure win-lose structure of sport can feel simplistic and even pointlessly aggressive to a mind that prefers to build rather than conquer. A third cognitive dimension is the difference between systemizing and empathizing. Systemizing is the drive to analyze and build systems, while empathizing is the drive to understand and respond to the emotions of others. Now, sports are definitely a system of rules and statistics, which you might think would appeal to a systemizer. But for many, particularly those who are also high in openness or empathy, it's a system that feels rigid and impersonal. Consider someone who loves building intricate Lego sets. They are creating and controlling a complex creative system from scratch. This is very different from watching the repetitive, externally controlled system of a sports game unfold. It's not about your ability to understand systems. It's about the kind of systems that spark joy and curiosity in your mind. So it makes perfect sense that your brain, which might prefer abstract, positive-sum, creative systems, simply doesn't get a dopamine hit from watching sports. We've looked inside your head, but our relationship with sports is also profoundly shaped by the people around us. At its core, modern sports fandom is a powerful form of tribal belonging. Psychology calls this social identity theory, where we gain a sense of self from the groups we belong to.
Sports provides a ready-made us versus them.
You wear your team's colors, you share a common enemy in your rival, and you feel a surge of collective pride when we win. This is an incredibly effective and evolutionarily ancient way to create community and belonging, and it provides immense comfort and identity for millions. But what if your identity isn't built on geography or group affiliation, but on ideas and values? For those of us who build our identity around our principles, our creative tastes, or our intellectual pursuits, this kind of tribe can feel arbitrary. Think of the sense of belonging you might feel with other fans of a complex fantasy novel series, or within a global community of open-source software developers. These are tribes based on shared knowledge and passion, not just a shared zip code. To an individualist, asking them to feel a deep connection to a team simply because it's local can feel inauthentic. Most people think sports is about athletic competition. For many, it's actually about finding an excuse for tribal belonging. And it's okay to not need that excuse. You're not antisocial, you're just differently social, seeking connection based on shared substance rather than shared location. This brings us to our fourth and final reason, the one that often operates deep below the surface of our awareness. Now, I want you to do something for me. Think back to grade school, to the squeak of sneakers on a polished floor and the echoey cavern of the school gymnasium. Remember the dread of having team captains pick players one by one? For so many of us who weren't naturally athletic, this was our first and most powerful lesson about sports. It was a weekly ritual of public ranking that often ended in feelings of shame, inadequacy, and exclusion. Or perhaps it was the pressure from a well-meaning but sports-obsessed parent, making something that should have been play feel like a high-stakes performance. These aren't just bad memories, they are learning experiences. Through a process called operant conditioning, your brain built a powerful subconscious connection. It learned to associate the entire category of sports with the painful sting of rejection or the anxiety of failure. Now, as an adult, even just hearing a game on TV can trigger a faint physiological echo of that old feeling. Your aversion isn't just a preference, it's a learned protective mechanism. So, if any of this feels familiar, your disinterest in sports is a completely understandable and logical response to your personal history. If these aha moments about your own psychology are resonating with you, it's because you're the kind of person who loves to understand the world more deeply. That's what this channel is all about. So, if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind everyday life, take a moment to subscribe. You belong here. Understanding all this is great for self-acceptance, but what about survival? Okay, so you understand the why, but how do you handle Monday morning at the office when everyone is talking about the game? Here are 3 simple techniques to navigate any sports conversation with confidence.
The curious anthropologist.
Next time you're stuck, use this technique. Don't ask who won, ask why it mattered. Wow, it sounds like that was a huge comeback. What was the feeling like in the last few minutes? Second is the conversation pivot. Listen for a bridge to a topic you can genuinely talk about, like leadership, travel for away games, or even the business side of the sport. And third, the graceful exit. It's perfectly okay to smile and say, "I'll be honest, I didn't catch the game, but it sounds like it was intense. I'll let you guys get back to it." These tools allow you to engage authentically without pretending to be someone you're not. So let's bring it all together. We've seen how your disinterest in sports is a tapestry woven from multiple threads. It's your personality profile, high in openness and low in extroversion. It's your cognitive style, which prefers abstract creative problems over concrete zero-sum games. It's your social wiring, which builds identity on ideas and values rather than tribal affiliation. And it's your past experiences, which may have taught your brain to associate sports with negative feelings. That feeling of being an alien we talked about at the beginning is now replaced with the clarity of self-knowledge. You're not anti-sports, you're pro-complexity. Ultimately, your lack of interest in sports isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's a reflection of a mind that is curious, complex, and uniquely yours. Thank you so much for spending this time exploring your own mind with me. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you will absolutely love our video on the psychology of introverts, which you can see on the screen now. Let us know in the comments which one of the 4 factors resonated the most with you. We love reading your stories and insights because it helps us all feel a little less like aliens. Until next time, stay curious.